once again to the PCS 2021 Summer. I, of course, Empire Tidings. He, of course, is Clement. We got a banger of a game coming at you to close out the night. But before we get into the details one more time, I would like to thank our wonderful sponsors. They are, of course, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Thank you so much for making the PCS possible. Now, Clement, it's going to be PSG. We've been waiting all night for this one, and they're going to be taking on J-Team, who might just have a chance to take on the juggernaut of the PCS. What do you think about that?
I think this is the match that everyone has been waiting for. You know, this is pretty much our number 1 and number 3 team currently in the standings. And there's so many great matchups. Mission versus Maple is pretty much the headliner of that. But I think one that has been going under the radar has been Hanabi and Rest. These two guys statistically are the best top laners in the PCS. A lot of people might not know this, but Hanabi is currently rocking 500 plus experience and gold difference at 10 minutes and just taking it to everyone. He might be the weak side for PSG, but he's still the strong man in the PCS.
Yeah, weak side top laner, by the way. Yeah, Hanabi, River, Maple, Unified, and Kaiwing, they are so far the undefeated squad of the PCS. The MSI representatives from this region, they are just oh so strong and oh so hard to take down. But if there's a team that can do it, if there is one that can rise above the rest, well, I guess we're going to have to find out. J-Team haven't tested their mettle against this squad just yet, but man, it is always a tall order. And they're all having a great time tonight. I know they've been waiting to get onto the Rift and play it out, and you're right, there are just so many headline matchups. I love what this is going to look like, I think. J-Team have a lot to offer, and there they are. Rest in the top side, Hana in the jungle, Mission in the mid, Lilvi and Woody. And, you know, I wonder what that featured matchup will be, because my money's definitely on the mid, but there are opportunities. There are options.
The mid lane is really fun because this is one of those matchups, and we've seen in the past, where Mission does try to fight fire with fire and go for aggressive picks. He went for the Jace in the previous matchup, and Maple was the one that played a bit more defensive and made it more about his jungle. And we are going to get the mid lane once again. And this time around, though, we do see that Maple is the one going for more tempo picks, while Mission so far has just gone with the LeBlanc. That is the more of the tempo play right here. A bit of a very quiet split from Mission. I think he's giving a lot of room for Hana to kind of just do his thing. And, you know, this has kind of been the biggest difference in the matchup between these two teams, is that PSG overall just has much better coordination with their supporting cast in River and Kaiwing compared to J-Team, which they don't really sync up very well or very much with either Hana or Woody for that matter. So this is a match where I feel like J-Team plays very differently compared to their standard matchup. This is one where J-Team actually tries to be the tempo aggressors and try to take down PSG with just their individual laning strength, especially in Mission and Rest.
Absolutely. And if there's anybody that can match Maple for experience in the mid lane, it's certainly going to be Mission. I mean, these two are some of the most mainstays out of this region well before the PCS even existed. You know, looking at Mission way back in the day, AHQ player versus the Flash Wolves, PSG, or Flash Wolves player Maple, I should say. Here we are into the picks and bans, though, and there is going to be the LeBlanc ban away. Also, Xinjiao will be removed. We've seen it make its way through a lot. I don't think you want to let it fall into the hands of River. He's also been a terror.
This feels pretty refreshing. All S-tier picks across the board being banned away. PSG going to go directly for that Thresh. And like I was talking about, if you look at the LeBlanc and the Lucian, these aren't the typical picks that you think J-Team is going to go for. J-Team really hasn't been a fast tempo team. For the most part, they are much more about like scaling and just having range advantage, playing front to back. But in this matchup specifically, they do like to push things, and here we have the Akali going through. This is a very, very fun pick. I hope that PSG will answer with the Sylas. That typically will be the way that Maple likes to play this one out. A very tight skill matchup that can snowball either way.
Talked about fighting fire with fire. Mission certainly looking for the preemptive on that Akali, not letting it fall into the hands of Maple. There will be, for River, a lock-in of the Volley Bear. And now it's going to be rounding out that bottom side. We've seen so many of these Aphelios Thresh lanes when they're allowed, and it's just so safe. It's just so good. It's so consistent. Why not pick it?
We have seen J-Team show the Ziggs, and they're one of the few teams that I actually feel are pretty proficient with it. So PSG, they have to think ahead about this and how they're going to counter maybe some of the lane swaps that might be coming out of the Ziggs lane and some of the range assaults that will be coming their way. But for now, J-Team, they still have a lot of bans to go through. I think they're going to take out the Syndra during the ban phase. And for now, they're just going to pick something that can snowball and skirmish quite well. Leona, pretty much the top pick in the LPL at the support position, and very strong into Thresh post 6. So they're just going to go with that one.
Yeah, we've seen it here. Just really come up big for the engagements. And Silas banned away, so it does seem like the strategy is to just try and give Mission as much of an edge as possible, banning out that typical matchup. On the PSG side, they're going to start focusing on 80 carries. Lil V, I would expect if Ezreal doesn't get banned out, that's a possibility, or the Ziggs, as you mentioned, which does start to change things a little bit. Just depends on what PSG, I guess, want to deal with. For J-Team, still some seconds to go. Will they continue to focus onto that mid?
Yeah, so PSG have a lot of different ways to build out this composition. I wouldn't be surprised if Hanabi just goes for this Volley Bear. It's a pretty safe front line pick, and it can flex into multiple positions. For River, they probably want a harder carry, so I'm pretty curious on what this might go for. Diana is still open on this composition. Another really strong pick is, of course, the Renekton being open too. So I think PSG, if they want to continue on with just taking out the Rain champion, it probably will be the Ziggs ban. Indeed it is. But it does give J-Team a lot of options here. If I'm J-Team, I'm pretty happy with just taking the Renekton.
Yeah, give it over to Rest and just say, all right, well, we can probably deal with whatever Hanabi throws our way. J-Team having a little bit of time to decide. A little bit of a cheeky Brand hover.
We have seen Brand being used as another Aphelios counter. The thing about Brand is that he actually scales incredibly well late game. But his early game is a bit dangerous. Yeah, I do think the Ashe is probably the safer answer here. You can match range with range, and you also have utility. And it's a great filler for kind of the catch and pick composition that J-Team already has in the first 3 picks. It will be locked in, and it also gives Rest the last pick to play with and see what he wants to counter with.
Okay. So for PSG to fill things out here, looks like they'll let it timer tick down, and the Zoe is going to get locked in for Maple. That should be his second one of the split. I can say pretty confidently that he has a 100% win rate on this champion in the summer.
Yeah, pretty much everyone has a 100% win rate on PSG. It's because of that 5-0
It's a very easy stat to roll across, but yeah, that Renekton is going to come through potentially. So River might end up being on the tanky jungle for a change. We haven't really seen a lot of the Diana today, so that is going to be it as the timer ticks down.
Okay, so PSG gonna...
Please.
Getting kind of excited
for just
right
one
there.
shining moment, I was like, please lock the Yasuo. That would just make my night.
Yeah,
but I think the Jace makes
I really
sense.
wanted to see that one. Jace, definitely a strong laner and one of the few ones that don't really lose to Renekton early on. GP is fine given they want to run kill combos. Not a fan of this Gnar, to be absolutely honest. I feel like the Gnar just doesn't provide enough in mid to late game team fights. It's very difficult to pull a good Gnar far off these days. But it has been something that Rest loves. He has been going Hail of Blades most of the time and just bullying out the Gwen matchup. It is a traditional counter against Renekton, but it's Hanabi Renekton. You know, he's totally fine being 20 CS behind and having a call-in lane. I don't think he really cares about that one. So PSG, they are going to focus on the bottom side, and they do have very strong champions across the board. They definitely have the edge in the early game. And for J-Team, it's about those picks post 6 when you have your Dragon's Rage and Enchanted Crystal Arrow unlocked. Then you can sort of generate those kills for Mission, and hopefully he can snowball the game for you.
Yeah, I feel like when you are going to go for that Akali pickup, you definitely signal that you want to try and shovel as many kills into that champion as possible and really get off to a roll. I like that they went for this kind of pick face composition in the face of what PSG are trying to do. So we'll see if it works out. It's always a tough order against this titan of the PCS in PSG Talon, but If there is a team that can do it, J-Team, they've not been tested against this squad just yet. There's always the possibility. Will they be the team to hand PSG their first loss, or will the win streak continue unabated? We are about to find out as we close out week 2, day 2 here in the PCS summer. So, Clement, I know you talked a little bit about how the NAR maybe doesn't quite do what you would have liked compared to some other options. Who do you have to give this to? Just nameplates off, full-on draft. Who do you think won this one, if somebody did?
The weird thing for me is, if I don't look at IDs and just think about this in the PCS, in that sort of context, I actually do like J-Team's draft. They have a bunch of kill lanes. Level 6, you pop the Enchanted Crystal Arrow at Thresh. You even forget about Unify. He's probably going to be running Cleanse anyway. You just kill the Thresh over and over again and try to snowball off of that lane. And, you know, your early game's not as strong as Zoe plus Volibear, but, you know, it doesn't really matter. Like, kills... This level of kill secure is very difficult to avoid, and you can kind of snowball off of that point. However, I feel like, given the context of the IDs, I do favor PSG a little bit. I feel like Maple and River are going to be able to get a lot away just because the mid jungle is not going to get contested earlier on, and they have a really nice and stable late game composition to fall back onto. Aphelios is going to scale out of his mind. He has that front line, while on the other side, J-Team's late game is very difficult to play. They are running a bunch of targets that get one-shot by Zoe. So, you know, it really has to be a very big mid-game spike coming in from J-Team in order for them to secure the win.
Yeah, that's the big brain here, Clement. You don't need to worry about the late game if you never make it to late game.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
that's the spirit. That's the Invictus game.
PSG have been speedrunning the PCS, so, you know, I mean, I think that's a safe bet.
The problem is J-Team haven't been the ones speedrunning the PCS. The ones that are
they do have to change
are
it
PSG.
Yeah. They do have to change it up for sure. So J-Team are going to have to find a much faster game in this one. They've certainly built for it. I think he called out in the draft that was going to be a good call, and we'll see how he started off. It looked like for a second there might have been a cheeky invade by River. Doesn't find any damage. Does find Hana, though. Just a little bit
Taking
of fun
a look
to
at the
kick things
runes.
off.
We do have everything standard coming out here. It is going to be cleanse on Unify because of that crowd control. And on Hanabi's side, we are getting the Conquerors instead of the press attack. Some people do like to take press the attack for extra burst against poke matchups, against long range matchups, excuse me. But the Conqueror does give you a little bit more healing and takiness while not detracting too much from your laning phase. That kind of seems like Hanabi's MO at this point. So he will be going for that rune instead. And taking a look at both of the junglers here, we do have a mirrored starts, both heading towards the top side. If you want to make use of Double Stun and Ruthless Predator, you have to make use of it early. So that should be expected on River's side. I think J-Team should be able to keep their top laner pretty safe regardless, though. Rest has been really good on that side. And we do also see a deep ward coming in from PSG, so a bit of a lead in the early game for them.
Well, that's certainly something that we're used to saying, but yeah, you talked about J-Team definitely trying to keep Rest as safe as possible. He's doing himself a few favors, too. Not gone for that Hail of Blades, instead Grasp of the Undying to get a little bit more sustain in there as we get this one underway. Hawk shot early. Not taking any chances. Want to spy out that jungle. And they will find River.
A beautiful Hawk shot.
That's a long one,
Goes through 5 camps on the side. Great pathing there. A lot of time, this is why you see Ashes not leashing and just getting to lane early to make sure they get that push in. If you get into that territory, then you can get a perfect Hawk shot like we just saw there. River is going to do an invade and just sweep out this ward. They probably did have some information based on their previous ward, and he is coming in with the smite here, so this is anyone's red buff.
Yeah, they're going to try and play chicken, and River steals it away. Oh, that was cheeky.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for PSG. They have the superior mid lane matchup, and the top lane is very diveable at this point. Renekton, you just flash onto the Gnar. He can't really withstand the entire combo, and they get Lil V's cleanse too.
Instantly. I mean, Kaiwing just knew exactly where to place that hook. Hana is coming in. Now that he's been deprived of the red buff, maybe he can try to make an early play on this Lee Sin. Kaiwing's a little bit low, but so is Lil V. And look who's coming to the party.
Is here though.
Oh boy, if they fit, yep, they checked that with the ward. Has to safeguard. Oh boy.
Really rough start coming out from J-Team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a straight up 2v2 loss coming out of the bot lane, unfortunately. And then we had River actually follow to secure double scuttle. So this is this is not great. The River follow was actually really interesting. He had an open path to just force rest to lose CS, but instead he tries to take Hana out of the equation first and make sure that he just goes to the bot lane, denies that first scuttle from Hana. And interesting enough, he's not actually going for the second scuttle. I'm just gonna path straight up for the full clear here. So a lot of unique things that he's doing right here, and it ends up working because of that bot lane play that he does manage to save Unified and Kaiwing as they're pushing in.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about River this split already. It's just been a highlight reel maker, but less often talked about is just what he's able to do in these early games to set his team up for success. It's just another cog in the well-oiled PSG machine, but it gets the job done, and you can see he's just been massively out-camping Hana in this game. That 3 buff, really, just timing on the smite, sets a lot up for this squad. He's not the only one winning out in CS, though, for sure. I mean, you got to take a look at what's happening with Maple in the mid here on this Zoe. Definitely denying Mission at least a little bit of his farm as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble will land. He's forced to back away. And Paddlestar, easy enough to line up.
Just such great pathing from River. He's actually 2 levels ahead of Hana at this point, already level 5, and he's going to get a double scuttle. Like, Hana is not able to go for that scuttle because he is playing with an Akali in the mid lane. That's just way too much mid lane pressure coming in from the Zoe. He has to give that one up. And we are going to get a very fast level 6, so that could potentially be a tower dive directly onto Rest as he teleports back in here. Let's see if River is able to tick over to 6 on this double scuttle.
Very, very close. We'll have to check that one out in just a moment as he finishes it. Not quite. Looks like he's going to go find Hana. Just about. Doesn't opt to try and take him. Instead, just getting some warding down inside of the jungle. Great tracking this game. And he just goes up to the top, still on level 5, looking for Rest. They might go for the dive regardless.
River is close enough to tick over to level 6 just based on dead minions, but doesn't look like that's going to happen, and he's just going to make sure that Hanabi is not going to get interrupted into the shove-in. This is something I really love about PSG, and something that I think a lot of top teams do is that when their laners are shoving in and trying to get bounce backs, you will see the jungle participate and change their pathing to accommodate for that one. And this is definitely one of River's strong suits as well. Make sure that Hanabi, even in a matchup where he's supposed to be countered, is going to come out ahead with the CS lead.
Yeah, just really trying to shore up as many weaknesses as possible and turn them into strengths for the team. PSG so far able to start to make that happen without even getting any kills, finding themselves with a decent little gold lead. River going into the J-Team jungle once again, bringing Maple and Unified to the party as well. And a big old Paddlestar lands onto Woody from downtown. And J-Team just can't stop this.
Yeah, really nice 4v3, and the importance of this is that he forces away Hana from the bottom side of the map. We talked about this. J-Team's biggest kill threat is in this bot lane against Kaiwing, but without Lee Sin there and with the bot lane so far behind, they're not going to be able to execute that. So really well done by PSG, just leveraging their jungle mid advantages over their opponent to make sure that J-Team don't get the mid-game spike they need.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much to say about how well PSG are doing just to neutralize any threats in the early game from J-Team. And remember, J-Team are the team that want to accelerate this game. It may not be their preferred play style, but it's what they need to do in this particular instance. Woody going to face check directly into River. Sleepy Trouble Bubble kind of just luckily pass in a different direction. Doesn't get tagged by it, but still dangerous here. This should prompt the start on the Rift Herald for River.
Woody is so lucky that River actually didn't get the stun onto the Sky Splitter, and Zoe at the same time missed the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. It does allow them to come back with an extra flash on the support. And Kaiwing also misses too, so this is going to be a straight-up brawl.
Into the play, that's going to be Woody on the target first. Will get taken down for first blood. Over to Unified, and he gets himself two as they find Hana picking around the side. Rest was a little bit late to this party. Good old perfect execution. Mission has to get the heck out of there with it as he gets bursted down. Rest, man, it's just chaos here. They're going to bring everybody out of the pit, and Rest is stuck in the Mini-Gnar form. Nowhere to go. Red Smite down, and Maple will tag him.
J-Team a little bit slow on the trigger, and even though they had some even numbers at the start of that one, Unified actually rotated far earlier, and they were missing crucial ultimates coming in from the jungle. Let's watch out again, you know, at the start of it, PSG actually missed a lot of abilities, but Unified pops out. They realize, wait a minute, we don't have our ADC, and at the same time, River gets so much more damage because he does have that extra Stormbringer over Hana. Mission doesn't even survive this one, and that's just so many kills and takedowns going over to Maple's side. It's always just a great cleanup champion. At this point, PSG have such a sizable lead that it's really going to be put into question whether that big mid-game spike is ever going to come. Oh, excuse me. Mission does survive facing under the TP. The damage really is done, and at this point, Unified can push whatever tower he wishes.
The one saving grace for J-Team, and that is the one kill they pick up does go to Mission, but you need more than that. You need to be able to pick up a win in these fights, and they just get collapsed on in a way that was so hard to deal with, so frustrating. PSG picking up a lot in that one. They do lose out on this first Dragon, but I don't think PSG are going to be too busted up about that fact. And the pressure game is on here. River right back to the Herald.
J-Team tried to swap to get away from the bad matchup that they had bottom because Unified is 2-0-1. With the completed Immortal Shield Bow, there's nothing you can do in that lane anymore. So they do try to get away with the matchup, but PSG actually read this very well. They also send their bot lane to the top, and this just makes things very awkward for Lil V. He can't really stand in lane. They know that the Volibear is likely coming. They know that the Herald was just taken. And on the flip side, this is the Hanabi special. Weak side Renekton knows when to walk away.
And River jumps in onto Woody. The arrow lands onto Kaiwing, just cutting the legs off of that chase for the time being. But they didn't even really need to get it because meanwhile, Unified was just going pew 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 on the tower.
Yeah, that's a two-wave denial coming in from the top side. It might not show on the CS score just yet, but it definitely hurts, and Lil V is going to be massively under-leveled compared to his counterpart. In the meantime, Hanabi misses only about one wave. He's still able to clear here, and he should die, but it's going to cost a lot. He does have the Dominus.
Ooh, throws the Dominus on pretty quickly here as he tries to stay alive. Mission gets in, gets out, but he does take 2 tower shots, and Rest is not going to be so lucky. Maple goes in for the cleanup.
Really nice Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and Mission might not even survive this one.
Oh my goodness, Kaiwing, he's going to try to give this one over. Mission burning, but the box means there's nowhere for him to go, and he'd rather give it to the support, so Kaiwing ends up with the kill credit.
Oh, that's so sad when you see a mid laner running into the box just to give over the kill. It's like, well, I'm a gunner anyway. Might as deal the least damage to my team as possible. So a really good response coming in from the pot side. I felt like J-Team had to execute on this play. They were just losing way too much in the top side. There was really no answer. They had to go for this one. Even though it's a pretty hard kill on Renekton, he's probably the best champion against dives. They still make it to work, but unfortunately Rest gets tagged down. And Mission doesn't have an escape path. He's getting cut off from the river, gets cut off by Kaiwing here, and in the end just decides to give his life over.
Yeah, feels bad, man. Oh well, what can you do? Meanwhile, back in the jungle, River's still fighting out. Oh my goodness, is he just going to take that and get out? That's just rude. Eat and run.
Hey, blue buff is a bare necessity, okay? So
That's true.
hand it over to him. It's going to power off his electricity here. And we're looking at the rotations right now. Mission is in such an awkward state. He wants to come down here, but he has to walk through so many pings. He clears one out and still has so much distance to go through.
Managed to secure up the rest of the tower plates on the bottom side with Shelly. And it is J-Team playing the reaction game. They were the ones who wanted to get ahead early, but always a tall order against PSG. Hana safeguards over the wall to try and set, well, nothing up really. It wasn't going to be anything at all because there were just too many members there of PSG.
Rest tries to rotate in, put some pressure on Maple. Maple gets a really good clear down, and I think he must have picked something off from the ground to help him clear because we had Rest throwing some emotes down on the ground. JT managed to get, and they don't even get one plate for that, so it's kind of tragic here as Rest does lose, I think, like 1 or 2 minions here to make that play happen. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Woody got chunked, and yeah, that's That's just goodbye tower.
Yep, and it's going to be the tower shredding machine here for Unified, just pushing forward. And with River kind of at their backs, it's hard for J-Team to find an inroad on this duo lane. And now with the Dragon going to spawn in about a minute too, they can just go back, set up for this one. PSG have just been unafraid to get in the faces of J-Team, and River's been a big part of that. He's been very difficult to kill, bullying out Hana out of his own jungle a lot of the time, and you can just see how it's kept this Lee Sin down. Not necessarily in levels, but he just hasn't been quite as relevant. Now the push is on for Tier 2, and they want to go for the fight, actually. They do pull Woody in. Nowhere for the support to go. Kaiwing tanks the full turret. PSG just make it look too easy.
This is the thing about PSG. They're willing to give teams something in return for much more. They give them the inferior trade, a bit of CS minion, and the top lane tower. But they get a tower in the bot lane for themselves. They get rewarded for grouping up. They find the pick. And they are likely going to get this next objective as well. And Maple. Ooh,
Maple.
He go down.
Bit off a little more than he could chew there. Good flash in, but there's the perfect execution. Is it perfect
no,
enough?
The stun!
It is not. River to the rescue! Oh, man.
Oh, that was so close from getting the shutdown, but Maple manages to walk away. Good positioning there. He knows that River is coming from the right side, and look how chill Maple is. It's like, well, not even phased. Not even close.
Not at all. Although, if you're J-Team, that was certainly an unbearable occurrence. River going to go in onto that Infernal Drake now, and should be able to easily secure that one up with no one to contest. PSG firing on all cylinders, but, you know, what else is new, Clement?
Yeah, J-Team not really having the smooth game plan that they wanted. I feel like their bot lane was much further behind than what was anticipated. They lost summoners early on, and we also had a very early Hana gank where he gave up the top side of his jungle completely. That made a huge impact on River. Like, he was able to cruise around the map 2 levels up. Hana couldn't contest him anywhere he went. They had to just go for the inferior trades this entire time. And then in the meantime, J-Team was able to find picks before they could even group.
And Rest is just getting chunked out over and over again. While he's stuck in the mini-Gnar form, does turn big, but everybody from PSG is already gone, and, you know, I do wonder how effective this Gnar pick can be against a team that just never seems to be where you want them. Another Herald is going to go down in favor of PSG.
That's why I'm not a huge fan of the Gnar. Technically is a counter to Renekton, but he needs a lot of time to get ahead of the Renekton to really split push. In early game, he just gets pushed in all the time. So you're giving PSG a lot of mobility. Once again, it's a 3v1 tie back. This time, no TP being used by Maple, though.
Yeah, he is going to make him pay for it, though. That Dominus is big, and so is the Gnar. They will secure the kill, but PSG, without batting an eye, immediately just turn towards mid lane. They're going to take a much better trade out of this. They should get a second charge out of Shelly. Lilby, I don't think, can finish that job. No, they're going to get 2 towers for the 1.
I feel like this is like a psyops that PSG plays on you. They will give you an inferior trade and make it very obvious that they're willing to trade, but in return, you're not going to make the risky play that actually allows you to come back into the game. You're just going to go for the trades over and over again, and PSG is going to get more and more gold ahead. So, you know, sometimes it's true that you just want to go for these plays, take what's offered, but you also have to realize if the enemy team is far enough ahead in tempo and have set up these trades, they can still be detrimental. They're not going to make you suddenly overtake the team that is ahead. And I feel like J-Team are kind of funneling into that trap. Like, their best situation right now is not killing Hanabi over and over again. Hanabi doesn't even care if his gold bounty drops down to 76 gold. Like, he's totally fine with that. And yeah, I think for PSG, exactly, what you have to do to get back is actually get those bounties on Zoe and Unified. You have to make very risky all-in plays. You know, sure, it might be low percentage, it might be all or nothing, but without those, you really don't have a way back into the game.
And J-Team just trying to find something, but you're right, they're not going for what would get them back in this. Hana waiting, does see Kaiwing and Unified. A lot of things immediately here. PSG just always taking an aggressive stance, and nothing in the pit at the moment, but they are just looking for an inside track, and Hook goes fishing, does not find Mission.
All right, so the biggest utility advantage J-Team does have is that Enchanted Crystal Error. If they see Zoe up on the top side, I actually want them to open up on PSG. Like, that's their comeback ticket into all of this. But they do allow them to group, and now Maple is coming in for the kill.
Couple more teleports there down on that bottom side. Looks like they're going to be out. You know what we need this game, Clement? We need a counter for how many buffs River has stolen from Hana, because it's been a lot, I feel.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hana hasn't gotten a single scuttle.
Yeah.
In comes PSG.
Yeah, instantly. Ward hops away. Oh no! Mission got caught in the middle of all 5 members of PSG. And just when you think it can't get too much worse, it certainly does.
2 steps ahead on the rotational play. They do have the, I believe that was the Shirelias coming out from Kaiwing. Indeed it is. And they're able to close out on the bottom side.
I think they can do it.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, Mission doesn't have the TP, and he's the most fed member on the team right now. And in fact, he's the only member with kills on J-Team.
All right, just throws out the zoning bubble. Hana has to tiptoe around it. He's going to try to be the hero.
Hana,
Sonic Wave
come on,
lands.
let's go, Hana!
Short on time. Goes in, but doesn't quite nail the timing. So PSG will grab the buff and the jungler.
He tried. He definitely
tried. You can't really blame a man for trying.
Yeah, this is kind of how the script goes when J-Team tries to play very aggressive. I think in some ways, J-Team's early game aggressiveness is also a defensive mechanism against PSG because PSG is just so strong in the early phases. They're definitely a tempo-oriented team. But unfortunately for them, I don't feel like J-Team have it in them to play aggressive enough to make a lot of these compositions work. Their usual compositions are range advantage, front to back. We don't have to do anything. We just sit in siege, and we don't have to make crazy plays. And when you're playing a comp like this, you really need a lot of engaged potential out of your support and jungler, which J-Team are unfortunately missing.
Yeah, J-Team trying to play something that they think is capable of beating J-Team. The problem is they just haven't had enough aggression. They haven't had enough execution to do it. But also they got set behind from the get-go. I mean, I really want to give a lot of credit to River. Sets Hana back enough, takes away buffs, actually just ends up 3-buffing him, and I don't think Hana's had like a bad game by any means, but he just wasn't able to get those highlight plays early on. And now we see kind of the fruits born of all of that as PSG are knocking on the base.
And, you know, it was a bit of a coincidence. It wasn't guaranteed to end up like this, but unfortunately River did get the... Oh!
That's a big gnar, but Rest doesn't find nearly enough targets as River tanks it all up. Anabi zoning Mission out as the playback Kaiwing. They just don't even care about the Akali as they look for the turrets. Sleepy Trouble Bubble means that Woody is going absolutely nowhere, and Mission going to get taken out. A triple kill for Unified, and the Aphelios is online. And I do believe if it is not GG here, that is not far off. Looks like PSG going to continue their speed run of the PCS.
30 seconds on Mission. It's going to take him a long time to get back here. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. And PSG stand undefeated, 6-0 across the PCS. Still the kings of the league.
They absolutely are. That Nexus, it's going a little low. I think they can just focus it down for just a second. J-Team gave us pause. But PSG will take it for their 6th win in a row, and smiles on the faces. They just make League of Legends look easy.
Yeah, River, I felt like that early red steal was just massive on the play. One thing about Volibear's kit is that he does deal a lot of damage to monsters with that Sky Splitter, and then unfortunately, Hanabi, even with the Execute, wasn't able to take his own red buff, so he was behind on that point. His mid laner was also behind because she's Macaulay, she's getting pushed in by Zoe. He loses the entire top side, falls behind 2 levels, and when they finally got things online, PSG were just way too far ahead. And I also felt like J-Team didn't really play the mid game all that well. I felt like they needed to contest Unify. You can't just always play away from Unified's lane. And for some reason, like, they never contested Unified whatsoever.
Yeah, they got so tunnel visioned on just trying to constantly dive Hanabi, and Hanabi's just like, that's fine. I'm not the win condition. I don't really care. And there was just so much investment to try and get him when he was splitting down on the bottom side that every single time the better trades went PSG's way. I mean, River, though, was just all over the map, creating tons of pressure, scaring people, denying waves at the very least, and sometimes just straight up getting kills. So I think this Volibear pick really worked out for him well. I mean, the man can play hyper carries, the man can play skirmishers, the man can play tanks. River has really come into his own, I think, even if he wasn't already. And everyone on PSG just did everything they needed to do to win this game. J-Team, we thought maybe they could be the challengers to come up here, but they just didn't look very comfortable playing this type of League of Legends. And I think PSG know how to take advantage of that. They can smell weakness.
They definitely can. My suggestions to J-Team was they definitely need to go crazy for a while, try to train in that LPL sort of echo chamber where every team fight is life and death and you just have to go all in every single chance you get. Like, I actually think that's a really good training environment for a team like J-Team that can act a little bit too timid at times. And just, like, honestly, PSG just read them like a book. They gave them the crumbs on the edge of the cookie, and J-Team were happy to gobble them up and let them take the lion's share of the dessert. So it was a little bit sad to see. Definitely not the way you want to play if you are already behind. You cannot just let the enemy dictate to you which side is going to be played and what trades are going to go down. So I think it's a learning experience for J-Team for sure, and it's definitely a hurdle that we haven't really seen them overcome. And, you know, they tend to be a very mellow-mannered team. Most of their players are super likable, cute dudes, but, you know, they need a bit of that Mamba mentality to overcome PSG.
Ooh, dropping the reference there. Yeah, I agree. I think they need to find a little more aggression. Hopefully they can review the tape, take a look at what they need to improve on. But, of course, J-Team in good company, losing against PSG. Everyone else that has faced them, 6-0. For the Titans here, the PCS, and you could see that as the damage was being dealt out, we actually have Kaiwing winning the MVP in all of this one. He definitely had a lot of great fishing hooks and setting up some plays. I also loved Tim just taking the kill on the Akali at the end because, you know what? It was better than giving it to River, I suppose.
Definitely was. Oh, that's just kind of sad. That one kill does come from mission suicide. He basically committed Sabuku right inside of his own shroud. Yeah. And I think the main thing for me is Kaiwing was able to get that early hook onto Ashe and force Lil V out of the lane, and they were never able to chain the correct crowd control in the bot lane, never got their kill lane, their win condition on board for J-Team. So that's just an individual outplay. Didn't even really need the jungle pressure from that point to even get that advantage. And they were able to match the lane allocations. We saw J-Team trying to wiggle themselves outside of the 2v2 because they were already too fed and they had that Immortal Shield Bowl and not taking damage in the lane. Weren't able to get away from that at all.
No, it was a really good job by the dual lane to just kind of track out what J-Team were trying to do on the opposite side. I mean, you said that they were able to read J-Team's intentions like a book. They also read their movements. There was just so much vision investment. There's such a great game sense. I think this is what sets PSG apart from all the other teams in the PCS is they just have this, like, it's almost like a supernatural game sense that they just know what the enemy team, regardless of who they are, is doing overall. Now, let's take a look at our results on the day as we do close things out. The score lines may not look all that surprising, but, you know, a number of these games were a lot closer, and we were very close to a number of upsets today, Clement. Anything in particular stand out in your mind?
I felt like Liev actually had a pretty fun game going up against Machi, and of course Impunity's game against Machi was also much closer than one team fight decided that one. Unfortunately for Impunity, they continued to skid into the bottom half of the roster here. Hong Kong Attitude came back with a pretty good draft as well, and I think this was one of the best games that we have seen Hongsuo. So a couple of rookie highlights, a couple of teams surging up into the rosters, especially Machi Esports taking their rightful place among the top four.
Yes, indeed. Of course, alongside them will be J-Team that they do drop to 4-2, but still looking like a very strong squad on the whole. Hong Kong Attitude definitely looking forward to seeing more from this squad. I think they are better than the 3-3 record does indicate, but also impressive performances. Once again, Boom kind of really padding out their wins there, that they have been able to grab them, even if they kind of eked by a little bit more today. And Megabank Beyond Gaming, of course, no surprises that they would be 5-1. A lot of those teams really only losing out to PSG Talon. Let's take a look at tomorrow's matches. We will open with PSG taking on Impunity, who are looking to stop that losing streak, but it's going to be a very tall order. After that, Boom Esports take on Machi in a battle, really just for dominance, close to the top of the standings there. Then PSG once again against Berjaya Dragons. Machi returns to face off against HKA. And we got Alpha Liab, which should be a really interesting one. Rumble at the bottom of the table, as well as J-Team taking on Megabank Beyond. I love these matchups, Clement. I mean, I have a hard time picking out what I think my favorite's going to be for tomorrow.
We have the match so to see who can actually stand out as the second best team in the league between J-Team and Megabank Beyond Gaming. And also, someone has to win between Alpha Esports and Liab, you know. Right now, they are combined, I believe, 0 for 11, but Liab might be breaking their losing spell, and Alpha Esports might be doing that too. So I can't really wait for that one. Like Kanji versus Xiaotu is going to be a highlight matchup. Probably not on the right side of the table, but definitely still a highlight.
Yeah, I think we're certainly going to see some impressive performances there. We have been seeing both those teams improve. Somebody will come up ahead, but that is all for us now today. Thank you so much for watching on behalf of the whole broadcast team. We will see you tomorrow. Tune back in, same time, same place. Until then.